This marks the end for you. What on earth are you doing? Open this door, please. And what do you mean by the end? I simply turned off the breaker downstairs. Now the elevator won't work, and you can't descend from the second floor. What? What are you talking about? I'm heading out on a 7-night, 8-day trip with my friends. The fake mom can starve on the second floor. Hey, stop joking and open the door. I could open it, but you can't get down to the first floor by yourself. Your smartphone and computer are downstairs, so you can't call for help. Dad's on a business trip and won't be back for 3 months. The situation looks pretty hopeless. My husband's daughter, Emily, really left me, a wheelchair user, stranded on the second floor and went on her trip. This is crossing a line. A week later, when Emily returned home, she felt something was off as she climbed the stairs. Why are you looking so chipper? It seemed Emily couldn't grasp the situation, so I decided to explain it to her. This would probably be my last lesson to her as a mother, so I took my time explaining carefully. My name is Jennifer. I'm a 34-year-old programmer, just a regular person in her 40s with a job, a marriage, and kids. But there's one thing that sets me apart. I've been wheelchair-bound since a traffic accident in middle school. When the accident happened, I was unconscious for 3 days and bedridden for treatment. After waking up, I didn't realize for a while that my legs had stopped working. I only knew my legs were paralyzed when my mom broke the news to me. Mom, when will I start rehab? I want to play basketball again soon. If I take it easy, I might lose my spot on the team. I think the doctor will have something to say. However, the truth is, I cried all day after hearing the cruel reality from my mom. It must have been hard for her to tell me. She cried with me all day. But my tomboyish, mischievous, and lively nature helped me bounce back quickly. Well, what's done is done. What matters is what comes next. Life in a wheelchair was inconvenient, but not as bad as I had imagined. Over 20 years have passed since the accident, and I've adapted so well to wheelchair life that it surprises people. I still have some upper body strength, so I can manage the bathroom alone if I try. I chose a company understanding of my wheelchair needs and now mainly work from home. I go to the office about 2 or 3 times a month for meetings, commuting by car. I drive myself, using a specially adapted vehicle that can be operated solely with my hands. Sometimes I go for drives on weekends. I enjoyed wheelchair basketball in my 20s. There have been challenges, but overall, I'm satisfied with my life. I even managed to get married, something I had given up on because of my disability. Does this setup work for you? Your parents' house seemed more elaborate. That was just my parents going overboard because they weren't sure what I needed. This is enough for me. We just need to install a lift for the stairs. I can't install a lift myself, so I guess we'll have to wait for the professionals. I married Kevin, who is 7 years older, just last year. Our meeting wasn't dramatic, just a typical workplace romance. After getting married, Kevin and I rented a house and made it wheelchair accessible with permission. Wheelchair accessible meant simple things like installing portable ramps and handrails. The only major addition was a rail lift for getting to the second floor. And that's how our sweet, newly life began, or at least that's what we thought. I'm home, Jennifer. What's for dinner? Weren't you with your mom today? Didn't you eat anything there? She said she had some errand and left early. Oh dear, you should have told me if you needed dinner. I always say that, don't I? Sorry about that. My husband, Kevin, is a divorcee with a child, but his daughter, Emily, is already an 18-year-old college student. I've known her since before we got married, and we have a good relationship. She calls me Jennifer. Emily also gets along well with Kevin's ex-wife, Mindy, meeting her sometimes and distinguishing her as mom. Despite potential issues like my disability or the dynamics with Emily, I felt joy that our family life started without any trouble. But unbeknownst to me, seeds of trouble were growing behind the scenes. A year into our marriage, Emily, who had been friendly, became increasingly distant. Now barely conversing, she would go straight to her room on the second floor upon returning home. It's hard for me to go upstairs without the lift, so my life is centered around the first floor. I only go upstairs about once a month to retrieve clothes or items from the storage room. For Emily, avoiding me on the second floor is a convenient refuge. I have no idea why my daughter has become distant towards me. I've even discussed this with my husband. Did I do something to make Emily dislike me? Can't think of anything, right? No, nothing at all. We were so close before. Even when we first moved into this house, she talked to me just like she always has. Why this sudden change? It wasn't sudden. It started about a month after moving in here. Maybe living with me made her upset. Probably not. She's known about your disability since before we married. Kevin and I were at a loss, not understanding why Emily's attitude changed. Without knowing the cause, we couldn't solve it. So I tried talking to her, but it seems that wasn't the best approach. Oh, you're home early today. I only had 2 classes. Wait a moment. I stopped Emily as she was about to go upstairs. Emily turned to me with a face somewhere between anger and no expression. I couldn't tell her feelings, but her annoyance was clear. We haven't talked much lately. Is something going on at college, or is it something to do with me? If you're troubled, you can tell me anything. Don't act like a mom. It's annoying. Emily mumbled and went upstairs. I thought I must have misheard. It was hard to believe she would say something so cruel. I convinced myself it was a misunderstanding, trying to ease the shock. That night, I discovered the reason behind Emily's coldness and reported to Kevin. It seems I'm the cause, she said. Don't act like a mom. It's annoying. When Kevin heard this, he was furious, leading to a family meeting. After hearing my side of the story, my husband loudly called for our daughter from the bottom of the stairs. Summoned by her father, she came to the living room with a sulky expression and sat down. Emily, I heard you said something awful to Jennifer. Why would you say that? Jennifer, she's not my mom. She's just a fake mom to me. Isn't this how you treat a fake mom? How can you say that, Kevin? Please don't react right away. If my husband lost his temper here, we wouldn't be able to hear our daughter's side and resolve the issue. Suppressing the shock of being called a fake mother, I urged my husband to stay calm. Kevin regained composure and continued. Why do you suddenly start saying that? You never used to. When I thought about it, it's weird. Dad divorced Mom and remarried within a year. You must have been cheating with Jennifer while still married, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I've known Jennifer for over 10 years. We worked together. That's why we got married quickly. And about cheating, Dad was always busy with work, leaving Mom lonely. Maybe the divorce was partly your fault too, Dad. Emily, Kevin's a busy software engineer. His work is for the family. Shut up. It's all your fault. You ruined our lives. My daughter slammed the table with a bang, stood up quickly, and left the living room. I don't understand why she would think such a thing, but it seems she believes I stole her father from his ex-wife. I think I kind of understand the reason now. Let's leave it at that for today, but Emily seems to be misunderstanding something, so Jennifer, just keep your distance from Emily for now. I'll clear up her misunderstanding. I decided to trust my husband's words and leave it to him. However, despite his attempts to clear up our daughter's misunderstanding, she was no longer willing to listen. Why are you so cold to your mom? How long are you going to stick with that fake mom? Just get a divorce already. What do you dislike so much? It's her very existence, the fake mom. When my husband talked to our daughter, she would confront me when he wasn't looking. You told Dad to talk to me again, didn't you? Don't get too comfortable just because you have him on your side. That's not true. How can I believe anything from you who stole Dad from Mom? My daughter kicked the laundry I had folded. With my mobility issues, it was a struggle to pick up the clothes that were kicked out of my reach. Knowing this, she deliberately kicked the pile from the bottom to make the clothes fly further. Watching the scattered laundry, she seemed satisfied and went upstairs while I picked up what I could reach. My husband would scold our daughter, who would then take it out on me. This pattern has become the routine, but to resolve my daughter's misunderstanding, we needed to keep talking, so this cycle would likely continue. However, just when I was preparing to keep dealing with my daughter patiently, my husband's long business trip was unfortunately scheduled. I'm sorry to leave you two alone while this is still unresolved. It's work, so it can't be helped. Maybe the company thinks it's okay because I'm too tough. Maybe I should be the one apologizing to you. It's okay if resolving things with Emily gets pushed back 2 or 3 months. I sent my husband off with a smile, not wanting to worry him more than necessary. Honestly, I felt uneasy about being alone with my daughter for 3 months, but there hadn't been any physical violence, so I shouldn't be overly anxious. That's what I thought. But my daughter's behavior escalated quickly once my husband was out of the house. 3 days after he left for his business trip, I noticed the picnic blanket in an unusual place. Huh? Why is the picnic blanket here? Maybe Emily was using it, but she seemed to have left earlier. I decided it was okay to tidy up the picnic blanket and took it to the storage room. As I went upstairs, I heard the front door open. Huh, is Emily back already? Curious about my daughter, but continuing to the storage room, I placed the picnic blanket inside. Suddenly, the door to the storage room slammed shut. This is the end for you. What are you doing? Open this door. It seemed I had fallen into my daughter's trap. She was holding the door from the outside, and I couldn't budge it from my wheelchair. However, the storage room door didn't have a lock, so she couldn't keep holding it forever. What did she mean by the end for me? Do you want me to open it? I'll open it soon, but first, just listen to me. I don't want to see your face, and you move surprisingly quickly for someone in a wheelchair. So she locked me in the storage room to avoid any retaliation from me. Indeed, being physically trained in basketball, I could understand her caution. But apart from that, her decision wasn't very wise. Do you think I'm going to hit you? And what do you mean by the end? I just turned off the breaker downstairs. Now the elevator won't work, and you can't get down from the second floor. What? What are you talking about? I'm going on a 7-night, 8-day trip with my friends, so I'll help you in a week. Starve on the second floor. Fake mom. Hey, stop joking. Open the door. I could open it, but you can't get down to the first floor alone. Your smartphone and computer are downstairs, so you can't call for help. And Dad's on a business trip and won't be back for 3 months. The situation looks pretty hopeless. Why are you doing something so terrible? Because you stole Dad from Mom. Just get a divorce already. Then Mom can remarry Dad. She even broke up with her boyfriend thinking Dad would come back to her if she knew about Mom's feelings. Kevin would never remarry Mindy because what do you know? Good luck surviving. The sound of hurried footsteps faded away. Emily must have run out of the house. When I opened the door of the storage room, no one was there. I stepped into the hallway and headed towards the stairs. Passing by Emily's room, I noticed a board about 8 inches high fixed at the bottom of her door. It was made so the door could be opened, but I couldn't enter the room in my wheelchair. Emily had found a clever way to trap me on the second floor while also maintaining her privacy. Reaching the stairs, I found a few pieces of bread and a bottle of water on the floor, likely a precaution to ensure I didn't starve to death. However, while I could drink tap water for hydration, the bread was clearly not enough for a week. Her intent to starve me seemed serious. This has crossed a line. I resolved to teach Emily and whoever orchestrated this situation a harsh lesson. A week later, Emily returned from her trip. Secretly observing her taking off her shoes at the entrance, I hid at the back of the room. She stepped into the house and started looking around, sensing something different about the house today. The stair lift was on the first floor, and there were unusual shoes at the entrance. However, my daughter, seemingly oblivious to this, felt something was off but couldn't quite put her finger on what it was. As usual, she quickly went upstairs without realizing the exact cause of her unease. I followed her, and halfway up the stairs, I heard her loud voice. "Why are you here? Shall I explain? How come you're looking so well?" Emily was surprised to see me peeking from the storage room and even more startled when I spoke from behind her. My daughter, in a state of constant surprise and confusion, widened her eyes and stared at me, desperately trying to make sense of the situation. "You're not starving at all." "Of course I'm not. You might have thought you trapped me on the second floor, but that wasn't really a trap." But wasn't the stair lift supposed to be unusable? The lift is battery-powered, so it works even when the breaker is off. It's a standard feature for power outage situations. Then, yes, right after you left for your trip, I went downstairs using the lift, even if it hadn't worked. I could have asked for help from a window. As for the breaker, I usually use a stick to reset it, so no issues there. And thanks for the bread, by the way. It made a nice snack. Emily had grown cold towards me about a month after moving in because she reduced her interactions with me. Early on, she never fully understood the extent of my mobility limitations. Even after living together for a year, she didn't fully grasp how the stair lift worked. Right after she left for her trip, I went downstairs as usual and immediately called Kevin to report what had happened. When Emily learned that I wasn't starving, she quickly looked towards the storage room and pointed to a person sitting there in silence, shouting, "Why is Mom here? And why is she sitting like that? What are you up to?" I'll explain that my husband had been standing right next to the storage room door all this time. But Emily was too shocked by the sight of her mother and me to notice him. So she yelled out in surprise again, "Dad, why are you here? Aren't you on a business trip?" "Huh, it's not an overseas trip. It's Sunday and I'm off work, so it's not strange for me to be home," he replied. Emily's naive question seemed to perplex my husband. At 19, and with only part-time job experience, she had assumed that a long-term business trip meant he couldn't come home often. However, his business trip was just a 3-hour drive away, and he planned to return home every 2 weeks. Today, a bit earlier than scheduled, he came back due to the situation with Emily. "I heard from your mother about the nonsense you've been up to, and telling me to divorce. Yes, it's all because of this fake mom. If she wasn't here, Mom and Dad could remarry. I'm never getting a divorce, and I won't remarry Mindy." "Why not?" "The reason for the divorce might be Mom's affair, but wasn't it also because you were always working? Besides, Mom can't forget you. She's repented and left her affair partner waiting for you." Hearing Emily's words, my husband and I sighed. Mindy, unable to bear the tension, bowed her head, staring at the floor. "Mindy, explain it yourself. That's why I brought you here." "Yes, the affair was not because of your work. It was just me enjoying playing around with men," Mindy confessed. "Lies, right? You said the affair was because of Dad's work, and that you left the other man because you couldn't forget Dad. It's not like that. I was dumped again because of my infidelity. I've always had a low income from part-time jobs. Over 40 now, I can't find a new job or catch a new man. Struggling for money. I thought of getting help from Kevin again, but then I heard he remarried." "So you fed Emily lies about me having an affair with Jennifer even before the divorce, trying to disrupt our life and set the stage for a divorce." "Yes, that's true. When Emily locked me upstairs, Mindy had mentioned wanting to remarry Kevin, so, after hearing from me, Kevin immediately contacted Mindy. Upon confronting her, it became clear she had been manipulating Emily. The quickest way to clear Emily's misconception that I stole Kevin from Mindy was to let her hear the truth from Mindy herself. Therefore, Kevin arranged for Mindy to be at the house when Emily returned from her trip. What? So I was deceived by Mom. It seemed as if Mindy was the mastermind and Emily a victim. But even if deceived, Emily had crossed a clear line. So Kevin prepared to take a firm stand. "Mindy is at fault for deceiving Emily, but you're also wrong. You went too far. Don't come back to this house." "What do you mean? I was deceived. Even if you were deceived, you tried to starve your mother by locking her upstairs. If the lift hadn't worked, you could have been arrested for unlawful confinement. I can't acknowledge someone who does such things as family." Emily's actions didn't constitute unlawful confinement since the lift worked. But that was just the outcome she intended, to confine me upstairs, making it a serious crime. False imprisonment is a serious crime with no option for a fine, only imprisonment as punishment. Emily probably thought it was okay since I could move freely on the second floor, and there was water and food. But this was no child's prank, and besides, Emily was no longer a child. This is outrageous, but I'm only 19. Kicking me out of the house before I'm even 20 is unreasonable. In the eyes of the law, you're an adult at 18. Parental rights have already ended. You're not a child who can be indulged anymore. What do you mean? I'm still a student and can't do anything, and yet, I'm considered an adult. That's the law. If you have a complaint, take it up with the government. We'll pay for your college tuition until you graduate, but you need to figure out your own living arrangements and expenses. That's impossible. Hey, I can go live with mom, right? She'll take care of me, won't she? I can't. I'm struggling financially and trying to use you to get help. I can't possibly take care of you. Regardless of what the law says, I'm still a child. Parents should take responsibility and make up for deceiving me. Rejected by Kevin, Emily had no choice but to turn to her mother, Mindy, who was living in tight circumstances. I could also turn to Kevin, Mindy, or our grandparents, but none of them were close enough to the university. Knowing her lack of options, Emily had to rely on Mindy. I can at least stay in the house if you move in. I'll end up having to take care of your living expenses, right? I can see where this is going. I'm not like you. No, you're the same as me. You're my daughter, after all. An ugly, self-deprecating argument unfolded before us. I wish they would stop fighting in someone else's home. Excuse me, can you take this discussion elsewhere? Emily and Mindy left the house without a word. It felt a bit pitiful, but Kevin was right. Emily was no longer a child. She might have endangered my life if things had gone differently. Making her realize the gravity of her actions is also a parent's duty. I watched her leave, hoping for her growth in the future. In the end, Emily moved in with Mindy. Mindy was living in a cramped, cheap apartment due to her financial situation. Emily moving in meant a cramped life with no privacy. Mindy told Emily to contribute to some of the living expenses, like rent and utilities, since Kevin wouldn't provide anything other than tuition. Emily had to pay these expenses from her part-time job earnings, but as a student, she couldn't always work. Most of her earnings went to living expenses, leaving her no money to hang out with friends. It must be tough for her at an age when socializing is everything. She might even lose friends due to being seen as unsociable. Well, she should accept this as a consequence of her actions.